live. What's up, guys? This is Justin with Joe Outdoors. I got Chad. What's up, Chad?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
All
How you
right.
doing?
Here we go. We got it. We got a good one tonight, guys. We found some guys on the Instagram that live a much better fishing life than we do, and we're gonna bring them on the show tonight to talk not only about kind of who they are, how they found each other, and I guess what they like to do here in Colorado, but also we are going to talk about a pretty rad trip they took down to it's Columbia, right, fellas?
Yep.
That's right.
America. All right, cool. So we're gonna chat about that a little bit. We'll probably talk a little bit about like why they're better fishermen than Chad and I, because like you guys have better gear, you have more experience, all those things. But to go ahead and get it started, I guess let's do this. We'll go kind of around the horn. Let's go Dave first. Dave, raise your hand. Tell everybody what's up.
Dave Hansen, how are you? Thanks for
Hey.
having us on. Appreciate it.
Happy to have you, man. So real quick, give us like your 30 seconds on you. Who are you?
Well, I'm Dave Hansen. I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I've been here since after college, I guess. I grew up in Minnesota, grew up as a bass fisherman, panfish, all on gear. And then once I moved to Colorado, I figured out the rivers aren't too deep. So my Rapalas and Daredevils didn't work too good. Decided to switch over to fly fishing gear and took the slow road on learning how to do it. I'm still learning, and that's like 30 years later. So
We're all
That's
rookies
me.
forever, right? Rookies
that's
forever.
right. That's right.
Right on. All right, cool. Let's jump to Derek.
That's me. I'm Derek. I'm down here in Durango, Colorado. Born and raised in the state of Colorado. Lived here all my life. Grew up trout fishing. Some of the trout fishing that I do nowadays for sure is a lot different than when I started. It's a different time for sure. Love to fly fish, but I'm not above fishing anyway. Conventional gear, fly fishing. We just like to have fun.
Nice. What else you do on the side? Because I see some of it on your arm.
Yeah. I'm an artist. I own my own tattoo shop down here in Durango, Heathen Tattoo, and
Sweet.
that pays for my endeavors.
Well done. Well done. All right, Josh, you're up.
Yeah, I'm Josh. I've been living in Colorado now probably about 7-8 years and live up in Loveland there. A fly fishing guide for Laughing Grizzly in the North Fork Ranch. And then I also guide hunting for elk and mule deer over in Meeker, Colorado with QRS Outdoors. So
Nice.
and yeah, so I spend the majority of my days out in the mountains, and it's just what I love to do. It's my passion.
Awesome. It was super funny when we popped into Laughing Grizzly that day, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I know those guys." And then he was like, "Josh Kelly." I was like, "Yeah, you know him?" He's like, "I sure do. He guides here." So, oh, okay.
Yeah, that shop is pretty amazing. There's just a wealth of knowledge that's there. The amount there's decades of knowledge in Rocky Mountain National Park at that shop, and it's really great to work there and just learn from those guys.
It was super cool when Chad and I stopped in that day because we're talking to. It turns out it was Dick, right? And he's fixing Chad's line, and I'm opening up that book. This one, this book here. All right. And he goes, "Hey, you should totally turn to page 64." And I said, "I'll bet it's not your fly."
Oh yeah.
Super cool guy.
Dick's a super awesome guy too. He just turned 80 this year, and he's bound and determined to keep on guiding even in his 80s. So he's trying to be the oldest fly fishing guide that's active in Colorado, I think, and still hangs with the young guys too. So
That's awesome.
Sounds like a guy we should get on the show, right? So we can like follow him as he sets the record.
Yeah, you'd like that. You'd like that.
Cool. So I guess here's my question, right? Because like we see you guys behind the scenes on Instagram here, and it's like it's an eclectic group from the outside looking in. How is it that you guys like all found each other and are all fishing, together all the time?
Derek, you want to start?
Sure. Well, I met Dave first. I do tattoo giveaways every once in a while just to kind of give back to the tattoo community. Anybody that has tattoos knows these things are expensive. And so, once in a while I like to give back a little bit and so I'll do little contests, giveaways, and Dave saw one of them that I was giving away on Instagram, and he won it and didn't realize that I wasn't in the Denver metro area.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
It was around, I think it was around Valentine's Day or something, wasn't it?
I think
And
so.
they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing a flash, thing, and I'm doing this giveaway, and if you want to come down and get your tattoo scheduled, I'm like, great. Where's your shop at? Thinking he'd say, oh, I'm up off Colfax and I-25 or some major that everyone knows in Denver.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm down in Durango. I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it down there this weekend. But so if you need to let somebody else win it, I understand. He's like, nah, it's cool. Just, let me know what works for you. And I guess I knew he was a fisherman from his page.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, do you think if I come down and spend a weekend, maybe we'd go fishing or something too? Sure enough, did the tattoo one day and went fishing the next day, and been friends ever since.
That's awesome, man. I would have hit him up. Hey man, I want the tattoo. Do you throw in a free hotel visit?
Well, he does have some connections there too.
I do.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's how you guys connect. How about you, Josh? Then how do you get into that equation?
So we used to, still kind of know them and stuff like that, but worked with a company, a fly fishing company out of New Mexico there, and then they were doing a video of for veteran suicide awareness, and so I was a part of that video and doing that, and they knew Dave through social media, I believe, and we ended up going to property with Dave there and fished, and it was a great day. And from there, just kind of we just started going on fishing trips together, all of us in a group there. So been friends since then.
Yeah, it all started down as local waters, Colorado stuff, different areas, but it's since evolved, as you've probably seen, and probably something we're going to talk about today. We're getting the fever and the itch to check off some bucket list trips, and had a few so far and have some more in the books. So it's been a pretty fun ride so far.
Yeah, it ain't over yet, that's for sure.
That's right.
Well, I think like Chad said earlier, I mean, you guys are kind of already living what we're trying to get to, man. That's probably why we're so dang jealous, and trying to at least just vicariously live through you guys on a podcast, man.
I would have never thought about starting with rainbow trout and then going to something that could potentially bite my hand.
Oh yeah.
So you guys, you started in Colorado. What other trips have you taken before we get into this last super cool one? Was it all Colorado so far, or have you done other stuff out and about?
The last trip the three of us were on was down in Costa Rica, tarpon fishing.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
That was before.
That was amazing, and that was before Columbia, and then before that, Derek and I and another one of my friends went up to Alaska, and that was all gear fishing for salmon and halibut and lingcod and things like that. So that was a great trip.
And
we've
hit
Green River as well.
Yeah, Green Rivers, San Juan.
Yep.
A couple other places, Wyoming. We've hit a couple places up in Wyoming together and got trips together. But that Costa Rica trip, I think, really kind of, at least for me, and I feel it's the same with these guys, really sparked a fire and a desire to get after more. And that was an eye opener going on that trip with these guys for sure.
That's awesome, man. I know, for us, right, we started out kind of just lure fishing in the rivers up here, right? Panther Martins ripping out browns left and right because they couldn't get away from a treble, right? So it was easy. And then you we got a taste of fly fishing, right? I started, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Chad, how long has it been for you now?
I'd say about the same time. My brother was real big into lure fishing, and we would go to the Rocky Mountain National Park, and he would fish the lures for the browns up there. And every time I'd pull out my fly rod, he would give me the biggest load of crap about, what are you doing? Why are you pulling that thing out? Lures is where at Panther Martins were his, that's where everything had to be, was a Panther Martin. So he tried to deter me a lot from fly fishing, but it didn't work.
Well, Chad can attest. I bet, the City Market, the Budget Tackle, the Fletchers at that time, dude, you couldn't find our brand of Panther Martin because we'd come up there with, $200, 4 of us, and we'd buy out every one in the you know, the whole strip there, and we just fish them out like all summer. It was great.
Yeah.
But I guess what I was getting at, right, is like we got a taste of fly fishing. He was like, oh man, that's what we're doing now. So now we're in that phase of like, let's just find, you know, some good heads and tailwaters here in Colorado. Let's get out there and test that out. I know we kind of have on our immediate agenda, if you will, which I hope immediate means in the next year. That'd be pretty cool. We've got family in Wyoming and Montana. And so, you know, we've got some folks, including probably you guys. You guys have seen Colorado Couple on the Fly, the husband and wife. They're going to be on it too, but they've got a nice trip that they've done up through there, and we're thinking about trying to do that, and then, you know, heading up and catching some cabins or some housing with our family. But that's like our big move is like, sweet dude, we're going to drive like 14 hours. So
There you go.
you know, we'll level up. But I guess maybe that's a good segue into this trip you guys took here to Columbia, man. Like, I don't know who leads the charge on this conversation, but how do you decide on Columbia? Then, like, how do you decide on the fish you're shooting for? And then, like, just go from there, because it seems like you guys just had a comedy of everything after fishing on top of that. So, like, you guys lead. Go for it.
I mean, I think, at least my opinion is, it usually starts with what's the species, you know, what species is not in North America, and what species interests us. You know, is it a rooster? Is it a tarpon? Is it a GT? Is it a Payara or a giant peacock? You know, that's kind of where it starts.
Mhm.
And then, okay, well, of those, if this is what we're going for next, where do we want to go? You know, where are they? What outfitters can we look up? You know, what homework can we do? And then let's make a decision on exactly when and where we're going and with who.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I think our hand was kind of forced on Columbia because we were looking at it, and then when we got back from Costa Rica, we found out that they had just had a Supreme Court ruling that they were going to ban all sport fishing in the country of Colombia because they deemed it inhumane. And so Dave was like, well, if we want to go to Colombia,
Now or never.
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come to find out, you get into Colombia and you find out that there really are no laws, and it doesn't matter anyway. So they're going to keep on doing it no matter what.
That was just one of those like public facing fun things that that has no balls behind it.
Well, he said they appealed it, and so, you know, if anybody that knows anything about the courts, you know, it'll take a while to you know, appeal and all that stuff. So they were talking about they'll still be doing it for quite some time. So
Nice. All right, so hit us with some of the details. Like, how long were you down there? What's it take to get a trip like that planned? And then, you know, what did you guys take? Like, we have a ton of questions, right? Because we're just like, man, I like have a dry fly and a nymph over here in the Colorado. So
That's too many questions. We got to do one at a time. I can't remember that one.
my answer for all of them was you need a Dave Hansen on your team.
Yeah,
you need a researcher, a key researcher.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I do some of the planning and research, and then these guys execute, show me how it's actually done. So it works out. Teamwork.
Well, then who holds the camera for all the pictures?
We take turns on that one for sure.
Yeah, it turns. Yeah.
Group project, sure.
So
Yeah.
when you're doing your research for the species down there, right? You're finding those, then you're kind of learning about the area and what they're gonna go after, right? So maybe walk us through a little bit of that. Like, what was it down there that you guys were fishing?
Well, for me personally, like, we knew we were going for peacock and Payara, and I think everybody kind of already knows this, but YouTube is a treasure trove of anything that you need to kind of research and look at. But you know, ultimately, you know, you just try and bring everything that you can, and you be prepared for every situation, because nothing ever amounts to what it is when you actually get there. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want, read books and stuff, but when you get there and you're actually having to fish for those different species that, you know, it's not even that they're a different species that you haven't fished for. It's like you're fishing on another planet because these fish are so different. And you know, you can prepare all you want, but really it's just getting there and getting on the ground and just fishing, just start fishing.
That's
Yeah,
one thing that is amazing to me is that okay, so you get set up, you've got your fishing pole, you got everything ready to go, you cast in, you get a bite, and the first thing that goes to my mind is, what can I expect to come out of the water?
Now what? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And,
Yeah.
and especially down there, because you never knew, you didn't really know what you were bringing up. So
Yeah, and Dave's good at keeping a lot of dialogue with the outfitters and the guides as well, getting all the information of gear that we're going to need, rods, all that fun stuff. Yeah, and as Josh pointed out, sometimes you feel you're prepared, and it seems every time we get down there, anywhere we go, we're ill prepared.
Yeah, that's what we're learning for sure through all this is, you try to get as much information as you can from the outfitter because, they're the pros, right? They know where we're going. They know what we're going to find. They know what we should be using, where, how. And even if they send you, okay, here's the list of equipment you need. Here's the type of flies you need. Here's the type of line you need. Here's the weight you need. Whatever it may be, there's always something they probably don't tell you or forgot to tell you. And we get there and it's like, okay, I don't remember hearing about this. That would have been nice because there's no fly shop in the next 300 miles from here. And even if there was, we couldn't get to it.
Right? What do you mean 50-pound bite wire?
yeah,
So, yeah, I guess it's good and bad, right? There's always that element of surprise and you're not prepared and you make the best out of what you got. But it's also nice to be as prepared as you can be.
So when you're planning that out, was there a language barrier issue, like getting this done, or are they pretty good?
No, they're all really good about having at least one, if not more, interpreters.
Nice.
So that's the easy part. Once you get down there, it might be harder. I mean, there's still going to be an interpreter, but
Yeah,
everyone else may not know a lick of English, and we may not know a lick of their language either. So,
paying
you know.
for stuff too, just using their currency and everything too is, pretty freaking confusing. Where you walk up to a guy buy a bottle of Jack and he's like telling you, oh, 50,000 pesos, and like I don't. And then you look at their money, and their money isn't even like the right numbers. It's you gotta be prepared for that too. Maybe look up the currency a little bit before you go.
I was gonna say, like, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into a trip like that, man, that has zero to do with fishing, right? And it's like,
Oh yeah.
it has everything to do with making sure you can just survive down there and get back. And that's always one of my things when I look at these guys who take these awesome hunts and stuff, is like the preparation that goes into this side of it, just so you can actually get on the ground and do your thing, man. Like, it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, all of us were pretty shocked, just the logistics that the outfitter in Colombia, had to go through to get us out to where they got us. Because, you talk about where we're going and this and that. Once again, it's one of the things that you just can't even imagine it until you actually see it. Like we hopped onto a boat and went. It was a 6-hour boat ride up the river into the Amazon jungle from the nearest, they call it a town, but let's be honest with each other, it was a village. It had one paved road. It was 6-hour boat ride into the Amazon jungle, like getting a whole fishing group, because we weren't the only ones there. There was 8 of us, so it was us 3 and 5 other gentlemen. Just getting that amount of people and food and camping supplies and all that stuff 6 hours into the Amazon jungle it's a huge feat. And,
Task on its own, yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool to see for sure.
So how long was the trip actually?
10 days.
10 days total with travel. It's like 2 days down, 2 days back, basically. For Josh and I, it was 3 days back. Derek left us.
Oh, did you make it out of there before then?
I did.
We had a little issue with security at the airport.
Yeah, they decided they were going to take some of our rods, some of our fishing gear, and not let us have it. And they told us that we had to go get a United employee and bring them back to security and they had to okay that we could travel with this stuff. And, you know, we went down to the gate, tried to get an employee, and, you know, they're like, yeah, but we can't leave the gate right now. You'll have to wait until the flight leaves. Then we can go down there.
You're like, but that's my flight. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
I had so much work piled up. I couldn't miss that flight. So, you know, I was literally getting ready to chalk up my rods. Like, you know, I can't miss the flight. And,
man,
Josh and Dave were like, well, we're staying back. And Dave was like, I'll get your rods, take my rods. And I was like, all right. So I got on the planned flight, and they had to miss the flight.
so what was the rationale? Like,
So
they
it
thought
was
they were weapons?
there was no rationale, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was the wrong word. You're right.
Yeah.
Because we went in 3, 1, 2, and 3 behind each other. I was the first person that went through, and their version of their air security, the guy pulls out my fly rods that are broke down and says, you can't take the fly rods. And so I move through, and we get, I think it was Dave that was next behind me, and they say he can have the fly rods, but he can't have his flies. And I had like a whole box of flies in my bag. And then it gets to Derek, and what I think they took your rods and left everything else.
Yep.
Yeah. But the worst part about it too is, we went through all the fiasco of that. We had to leave our stuff there at security to go talk to United. And when we get to United, they say they can't really help us. I'm all fired up. I don't know how I didn't go to jail.
Great place
But,
to go to jail.
yeah. And so I just thought to myself, I was like, there's no way that we can trust the security guards back there in these lines with our stuff just sitting there. And so once we made the decision, Derek was getting on a plane, me and Dave were staying. I went back to security, and as I'm walking up, here these guys are taking all of our fly rods and flies, and they're just throwing it in the garbage. They're just like, so I have to run up there, and none of them speak English. I don't speak any Spanish, and I'm just like the crazy white person yelling at them, like, please don't let me lose thousands of dollars here because you guys, don't know what's going on. So
It's incredible, man. Like, to just like be that willy-nilly about, well, you can do this, but you can't do that, and you're doing that doesn't even make sense. That sounds more like that was just harassment or something, man.
Yeah, it made no sense at all. Yeah, your flies are fine, but mine aren't. Your rods are not okay, but mine are. I mean, it would have been different if it was even across the board, but there was no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, I would have ended up like Josh. I'd have lost it, man. I would have lost it.
Well, Josh and I had about, 14, 16 hours to calm ourselves down. It took several drinks, and
I saw some of those posts. I think it was like stuff.
Yeah.
So we made it through, but it wasn't the return flight we had hoped for.
I was kind of joking with some of the guys. I said, you guys jump on this guy's page. Like, I'm following their time in the airport by the drinks they're posting.
Oh, yeah.
Not much else to do, that's for sure. So.
That's right.
Well, I can't even imagine how frustrating that was to be able to try to explain your case and not be able to get anywhere because they don't even know what you're saying. And so I can't even imagine how that felt.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the security guards, he wasn't even having it. He didn't. There was no arguing. He basically he told Josh that this is Colombia.
This is Colombia.
His rules.
Yeah.
And hey, after he told me it was Colombia, I thought too. I was like, man, maybe he's trying to look for a little bribe or a little tip or something like that. And I did it. I pulled out the money and I said, here you go. And that guy, he wouldn't take it. I was so confused.
Like, but I learned this in Mexico when I went to Cancun. I thought I just do this, and then Corona show up and everybody's happy.
Are you shaking me down or not? I don't know what's going on.
Oh man. Well, I mean, we skipped to the fun part, man. That's for sure. Well, the funny part for us, not for you guys, not fun, but like I kind of want to jump back to the fish, man. Like, and maybe each one of you take this on your own, but like you caught a bunch of different species. We saw some just incredible looking fish, man. Maybe let's go like Dave, Derek, Josh. What was your favorite catch and why, kind of thing? Because, for a lot of us, average Joe guys, we're still just, like I said, we're fishing brown, and and brown and probably some browns. And so it's like, talk a little bit about what your favorite catch was and, what it was, that kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, for me, it was our very first day of actually fishing. After 2 days of travel, we get to the camp a little bit before sunset, I guess, on the second day. So we didn't fish that. We fished the next morning. But that next morning, so it's day 3, our first day of fishing, it probably wasn't more than an hour in, and I already had a peacock bass that was, a giant. I mean, it was the biggest fish I caught the whole trip, and it happened in the first hour of the trip. So I'm like, okay, I think we made a good decision, guys. If this is what we're in for, it's going to be a great trip. So yeah, that's the fish there. I mean, I don't even know how big it was, but
golly, man,
it was a monster. I mean, I can't even explain how it fought, how my rod bent. The fish did not jump at all, so I didn't know what it was. I mean, I'd never caught a peacock or a payara or a piranha or a catfish, like this situation before. So all I know is it stayed down. It just dug and dug and dug. And the guide was like, have you seen it yet? Did it jump? Because he didn't see me hook up. He was watching something else. I said, no, I haven't seen anything. I don't know what it is. And so he was talking to the other guide that was there, and they both looked at each other and said, Bacone, giant peacock. I'm like, all right, cool. Derek, at that point, he's like, I guess I better reel up my rod and reel and go see what's going on over here. So he started recording on his phone, and we finally got a view of it. And oh my gosh, it looked like a great white shark coming at us.
Oh yeah, that thing is huge, man.
Yeah. So I mean, that was definitely a highlight. And again, it happened in the first hour of the first day. So hard to explain, but I mean that really made the trip for me to land that fish.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that you hit it in the first hour too, right? Like that's
setting
the bar kind of high there, Dave.
Yeah, I know. That's usually how it goes for me, though. If we go out fishing somewhere and I do something really good early on in the trip, the rest of the trip's kind of a fizz. Or if it's the other way around and it's a dud for me the first day or two, then all of a sudden I finish strong. So I'm not consistent. Put it that way.
It's a good looking fish, man.
Oh, beautiful.
All right. How about you, Derek? What do you got, man?
My favorite fish was probably my flathead or shovel-nosed catfish. I'm sorry. I caught it on the very last day of fishing. And I had caught 2 giant peacocks, but they weren't by any means giant. The 3 bars that I caught were on the smaller end for sure. Man, I literally casted my 10 weight with full sinking line with an 11-inch fly for 6 days. I was tired. I was beat down by the end of the trip, and the last day, and it was really the last lagoon that we hit, and it was pouring rain. And these guys know, for some reason, it's probably just because I'm not very bright, but I love to fish in rain. And the harder it's raining, the better time I have. And I don't care if it's warm rain, cold rain. I just love to fish in the rain. And it was just all out pouring. And I was stripping the fly, and just a freight train hit it. And man, it just fought really good. And it done the same thing that all the giant peacocks did. It just dug and pulled. And so we thought I had a really big peacock bass on.
Yeah.
And, I finally tired it out, and it came to the surface, and the boat captain was like, oh, wow, no, that's a shovel-nosed catfish. And I was like, oh, right on.
Cool.
And, yeah. So we landed it, and, in between, 12 and 14 pounds or so, which super nice fish. And just, when I got to hold it, just the markings, it was an absolutely gorgeous fish. Gorgeous.
Is this so? We got some pictures from Dave. We're not sure which ones are which.
That's the one I caught, which was quite a bit smaller than the one Derek got. I don't know if I sent you a picture of Derek's or not. If not, I will for sure.
Yeah, we might reference that when we go back and launch this out. But Chad, just keep punching some of these in here.
Yeah,
because they're just amazing pictures, man.
Beautiful fish.
Yeah. So okay. So that other image was what you caught, Derek, just slightly smaller, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, his was bigger than the one I got, for sure.
All right. Nice. I do not. And okay, so Josh, go ahead, man. I don't know if we have maybe your image in here too, but we'll search as we're talking here. But how about you, man? What was your big catch?
I'd say my big catch was on the last day. Gosh, we probably only had like an hour of fishing left, and I had caught some smaller 3-bars and butterflies and stuff like that. But I was in the boat with Dave, and we entered the lagoon there, and right in the mouth of the lagoon, they have a bunch of these sandbanks that come up in the mouth of the lagoons, and it's just a drop off that goes into the big river system. And everybody, all the guides and the outfitter there was telling us every time to hit that, but I don't know about the other guys, but I didn't really actually have much luck on that. And all of a sudden we're going into this lagoon, and I take a look at that bank, and it's like, man, that just looks juicy. And I just whip out a nice, probably one of my best casts. I let it sink for 5 seconds, and I start stripping, and the next thing you know, I just feel a little tick, and it wasn't even that strong of a hit. And then I go to strip set, nothing there, and I go to strip again, and then just bang, and it was like going to strip into a brick wall. There was no give at all. And then the next thing you know, my line starts running across that sandbank, and then fought him for a good couple minutes. Had to take him around the motor and stuff like that, and brought him in. And that was for sure. That was my big fish for sure. In my
Awesome.
Yeah, it was an awesome time.
I couldn't imagine stripping like that and just running into, like you said, a brick wall, right? Like, boom. I would just assume it's a log. Oh, man.
Yeah. Pretty much feels like it sometimes, that's for sure.
Yep.
That's not the one that I got there.
No, that was another one. That's nice. I think I sent you a video of the bigger one that Josh caught on the last day.
Yeah. That one I caught in a lagoon, and we were, there was other fishermen that were there, and they were not fly anglers; they were spin anglers, and we had to switch off each day. One of us would hop in with one of the spin anglers, and then we'd fish with each other the other days. And so I was fishing with a spin angler, and I caught that guy in some deep water, and the outfitter had a live scope, and there was tons of activity going on. And probably maybe 10 minutes after I took that picture there with that peacock, the other gentleman that was on the boat caught a 22-pound peacock. And this thing was just, absolutely out of control. It's hard to explain it. He hooked into it. I look over to see his rod's bent over, and then you just see this thing come out of the water and do a head shake. And it didn't feel like real life. I felt like I was on another planet. It was so big. And, he fights it. We get it in, taking the pictures. And when he's holding it, his mouth is so big that you literally could stick your head right into it.
Oh, my gosh.
So, and then that was a wake-up call on the third day where it was like, we were catching some really nice fish. But then all of a sudden it was like, holy crap, this is what's in the water. Like, Jaws is out here for sure.
So I vaguely remember seeing a picture. I think it was you guys, right? And the thing had just teeth that were huge. What was that one? I don't know if we have that image, but
that's the Payara. Yeah, I should have sent you some Payara pics. I think I did. Josh and I think both were of the opinion that going down there, that's a piranha. That's an actual piranha that you see in some of the movies where they attack people.
Big piranha.
But the Payara is the one with the fangs. That's a vampire fish. Yeah. So Josh and I were super excited for the Payara going down there. I think both he and I wanted a Payara more than a peacock. And Derek was a little bit the opposite. He wanted a peacock more than a Payara. And the Payara was definitely my second favorite fish by all means against that big peacock the first day. They fight crazy. They're acrobatic. They get off more than you'll keep them on for sure.
They're
Yeah.
fun.
And yeah, those teeth are scary. So you better have a boga grip or a net or something, because you don't want to get your anything anywhere near that thing's mouth.
So give me some scale from those pictures. How big are we talking, like on those teeth?
Oh, some of the bigger ones probably at least had 4-inch fangs.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
There's some, yeah. I mean, there's 30 pounders down there. We didn't get any like that, but they're huge. Scary.
Yeah, this is one of the tooth right here.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. Got a little souvenir there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool.
No, the Payara were amazing in a lot of different ways, and I've talked about this with Dave and Derek before. I would, after experiencing them and seeing the way that you get to fish for them, I would 100% go down to South America for a Payara specific trip. Just they're so aggressive. When you fish for them, they're like, you got a bank, like a cut bank, and then maybe some foliage and dead heads in the water and ripples behind it. And they'll be sitting in that ripple water waiting to ambush fish that are being brought down the river and everything. And they're never alone. When you run into them, they're in groups. And so there'll be a group of 10 to 30 of them, whatever.
Nice.
And when they're active on the bite, you're stripping through and you're hooking into one, and then you're losing it, and then another one's coming up and grabbing your fly and everything. And there was a wide variety in each one of those pods of you might catch a 5-pounder, you might catch a 15-pounder, you just didn't really know. And then the cool thing about that too is, like, you'd be fishing for these Payara, and they'd be, I guess you could say potted up or stacked up just like trout. And right behind them would be the piranhas, and they have like 3 different species of piranhas there and stuff like that. But the first time that I was Payara fishing, you're stripping through the Pyaras, and you end up not hooking into one, and then you get to the back of that, and all of a sudden the piranhas come out and they start going after your fly in the back. And the first day it was kind of cool. It was like, yeah, man, I caught up like 3 different species of piranha. It's awesome. But what you don't realize until afterwards is that piranha know how to absolutely destroy a fly. And like, I mean, just, you'll get flies back that are just hooks. And so after that first couple times, that fun, or the happiness of I'm in the Amazon rainforest and catch a piranha goes away real quick when they destroy a $25 fly in
Which
like
is
10
costing
seconds.
you money, right? Now you're
Yeah.
trying to avoid them at that point. Yeah, I get that one. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So on this trip, all the fishing's done on a boat then, as you guys are cruising through, and you're on a river though, right? So what's the? I mean, I'm just trying to paint a picture for people because we didn't get to see all of that, right? But like, how big, how narrow, like what's it look like as you're going?
Oh, there's
Yeah.
a big variety, but yeah, go there.
Yeah, no, the main river that we fished was, probably the size of the Colorado, maybe a little bigger. The river we came in on, though, was massive.
Yeah.
It was a tributary that we fished. And we done most of our fishing from the boats, but I mean, we definitely fished from the banks as well. We'd pull over on some of the sandbars to eat lunch, or even just to fish and throw streamers from the sandbars. And I even caught a couple of butterflies from the sandbars. So
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was a good variety. It seemed like most of the peacocks were in the lagoons and most of the Payara were in the main river. So it was a little, just kind of depended, well, I guess, what the guides felt like, where the fish were. I mean, we might ask, like, hey, let's skip the sandbar because we haven't had any luck on sandbars. I'd rather go in that lagoon because, the butterflies were crazy yesterday. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
They didn't always agree with us. So that was frustrating at sometimes. But yeah, there's these little boats. They're pretty skinny. They're almost like a big canoe. I don't know what size engine were on them, Derek or Josh. Do you remember?
40 horsepower.
40 horse.
Yeah.
So usually there were 2 of us, 2 anglers, and 1 boat captain, and there were really 2 guides with the outfitters. but there were 8 anglers total, like we mentioned earlier. So there were 4 boats. So 2 of the guides were on 2 of the boats, and then the other 2 boats, whoever were on those, were just with a boat captain. And I guess one of the cool things about the outfitter is they just hire villagers. They're all locals. So none of the villagers know any English. They don't know any other language except their own. So if Josh and I were out with Mario doesn't speak a lick of English, and we just try to find our best way to communicate. We learned a little bit of Spanish, like La Otra Laguna. Let's go to the other lagoon. We learned that. Or we could say Payara, and Jimmy, one of our guides, was super excited. He loved Payaras more than peacocks. So when he heard that, he's like, okay. And he started the engine, and we went down to the water Josh just described as Payara water.
Nice.
And probably your guys' best fishing days is when you didn't have one of the guides from the outfitters.
It absolutely was.
The native boat captains.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, there's things we learn on these trips, and there's always some good, and there's always some, this could have been better.
Yep.
So I know Chad and I got a couple like follow-up kind of towards the end questions. I got one more then, talking kind of along that same vein, right? You're meeting locals and you're hanging out with kind of what's going on there. What else did you guys do outside of that? Like, you're fishing, you're buying Jack Daniels for 50,000 pesos. What else you doing?
Well, Josh is a hunter, so he had to get in on the bow and arrow contest the local villagers were having.
Yep. And I actually went out one night with them to go hunting for it's a big rodent. I forget what it's called. Maybe a lemur. Maybe. No, I don't know. Either way. And that was. Yeah, I think that might be what it was. But it was a pretty interesting. They hunted at night, and I went out on. I think it was the 3rd day that I went on, and actually learned what the guides did every night. The local guides, the indigenous tribe there. They would drop us off, after fishing all day, and they would go out on the boat and crack beers and go hunting. But they invited me to go out one night, and that was a out of control experience where it was pitch black out, and here you are, we're in a boat, and there's like 5 guys, and they're going down the river with no light. Absolutely no light.
Oh yeah,
it's just all by memory. Like, they know where the dead heads are in the river, and all of a sudden you'll be in the boat, and you can't even barely see your hand, and all of a sudden he turns the boat and goes around something, and you're just like, well, I'm glad he knew where that was. And so, going down river doing that, and they would use they had a big headlamp spotlight that they'd get to certain parts of like sand banks and stuff, and before we got up to it, they'd use that headlamp to try and see eyes along the shoreline, and they were actually going to, if we ran into one, let me shoot it. And just we get in the boat, and this indigenous guy gives me a shotgun and is like, do you know how to use this? I'm like, yeah, please. And then I take a look at it, and I'm just like, okay, I mean, this is a little bit of a different gun. And it was a hand-built shotgun, 12-gauge shotgun that the guy had built himself. And so I look over to the guy and ask him, I was like, hey, where's the safety at? And he just picks his finger up and just goes, this is your safety. He's like, yep, so this is going to be an interesting ride. And so we were out for probably like 5 or 6 hours on the river, and then came back, and saw one of the big snakes, not an anaconda, but the boa. Saw one of the boas.
Nice.
But that was a pretty cool experience for sure.
So, with all the experiences that you guys are telling us about, and all the fish that you caught and everything like that, I mean, I'd like to know, how do you top this one? Where do you go next from here? What's on the bucket list next?
Argentina.
Yep. Golden Dorado.
Yep, Argentina in January for Golden Dorado.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that's next, but there's a heck of a lot more next that I think we all have to check off the box. anywhere from browns up in Iceland, Dorado, shoot, Mongolia for taming.
Yeah, that's mine. I
Let's-
can't wait for that.
Yeah. Big browns in New Zealand. I mean, there's a lot on our list. It's always a struggle deciding, okay, what are we really going to do?
Yeah, I bet, man. All right, well, let's wrap it there. I got one more question, and I guess this is part of what we like to try to do from our platform, right? Is you guys are having these experiences, and you have a knowledge base much further beyond than Chad and myself, and a lot of our folks that I think we're going to reach are going to just want a little bit of advice. So I think let's ask this question first. If you're where Chad and I are at, where we're just starting, kind of on our journey here in Colorado, what do we fish? Where do we fish? Like, just a little bit of advice on, what to do. And let's say this will come out in May here, right? April, May. Where do we go?
I don't want to tell you where to go because I'll be fishing.
I knew that was coming.
You don't need to give us exact coordinates.
Right.
No,
I'll tell you where to go, but it's not fishing.
you're thinking about May and stuff like that. You're going to start getting into that runoff water, and a lot of people kind of get intimidated by the runoff, and especially inexperienced fly fishermen will shy away from it. But that's where you kind of make your money and learn more, I think, is going and fishing that runoff off water. Hit the soft pockets wherever you can find them and go for that. But generally, overall, though, in terms of becoming a better fly fisherman, hunter, outdoors person, I always say the first and hardest step is just walking out the front door. Once you walk out that front door and you get on and you start your adventure, you're on the adventure. There's no turning back. Everybody feels that way. But the biggest thing is just walking out that front door and getting out there. And everything else will fall in place after that.
That's good advice, man, because when I was younger and didn't have kids and a wife, like, getting out the front door was easier. Now it's just load the truck and get out the front door, man.
Mhm.
Right? So, no, I think that's great advice. Good job skirting a good place to go. You must be a guide. I'll just go over to Laughing Grizzly, see if they can help us out. I got a check with your name on it.
Yep.
Right.
How about you, Dave? You got some season?
Yeah, I was going to say if that runoff intimidates people, and it can be intimidating, the other thing you can do is start thinking about high alpine lakes. They're starting to open up in May. Tailwaters, obviously, we have some great ones in Colorado. Anything that's controlled by the dam, you can get out there. Those flows should be fine, even though they're going to let some water out. Those still won't be like full-on runoff like some of the other rivers that are just blown out.
Okay.
And then I was also going to suggest, just for people that are new to fly fishing, hire a guide. Spend the money on a guide. Get a cheap Cabela's, Target, Walmart outfit. Spend the money on a guide instead of gear. Because I took the slow road. I moved down here from Minnesota. I didn't know shit about fly fishing other than it was a thing.
Yeah.
So I took the slow road, tried to self-teach myself, and literally probably took me 2 years before I caught my first fish. So get a guide. Your learning curve will exponentially increase. And then wherever that guide took you, hey, you can go back there again if it's not private water and catch the same fish using the same techniques, most likely.
That's
a great point, Dave, because that's where I got started. Is I didn't care about fly fishing at all. Got the opportunity to go with a brother-in-law of mine that had won a guiding fishing trip, and I'll tell you what, I've never had so much fun. He bought lunch for the day. He had 2 poles. I figured he was going to be fishing, and
Right.
whether I caught a fish, caught a snag, or caught the tree behind me, he had that second pole ready to go for me while he untangled my mess. So it was just an amazing experience. It really was.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's awesome advice as well, right? Because if you go 2 years, Dave, you're patient, man. I don't have that kind of patience. If I go 2 years without catching a fish, I'm not going 2 years without catching a fish. I'll quit and go do something else. So I think the idea of getting a guide is great for entry level folks, right? Because they're going to have a better experience. Like Chad, that makes a ton of sense. So, all right, Derek,
Okay. That's why Derek and Josh and I are all good friends, because we're not always the most intelligent and don't always do things the right way. Sometimes it's the hard way, but we have that in common.
Right.
So it works out.
Hey, I'm classy.
All right. How about you, Derek? What do you got?
Same as these guys, man. You know, we start to hit heavy runoff. I am a freestone guy. These guys know it. I love my freestone rivers. However, when they start to get that runoff and they get to full blowout, people just give up on them. I'm not one that does. I'm the same as Josh. Our techniques are probably a little different. I like to go throw streamers in some of them soft pockets. You'll have a lot of fun and you'll get taken on a ride once they get into that fast water too.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And then, you know, if that's not your cup of tea, hit the tailwaters. I'm surprised Josh didn't talk about his favorite fishery, Deckers.
I do pretty good.
Yeah, you can go hit Deckers when, you know, runoff is in full effect. And you won't have the problems there. The flows are controlled and you should probably have some good hatches going off. You know, it's starting to warm up. You're going to get some good blue wings popping off. Fish get active. They want to feed. So, but don't be afraid of runoff. I'm not, and I do good in runoff. So, and it's fun.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, man, because for the last 4 years, the spot I like to fish when it starts to get heavy like that, it sure as hell is intimidating, man. I'm like, where do you even enter? Where do you even shoot for? Yeah, so that's good advice. Is just get out there and do it.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing too is, you know, when runoff hits, I don't ever recommend. There's no reason to bring your waders. You don't have to get in the water.
Yeah,
and you not getting in the water because you know it can get sketchy.
Right.
But you don't have to, you know, because them fish, they don't want to be in that heavy water with all that debris. They're going to be in soft water that's basically right up against the bank with some structure for cover for them, so they can just stay behind and go and pick up, you know, food that's hauling ass down the river in the runoff. You don't even have to get in the water.
That's good to know. And I was curious the other day when we were at the fly shop, they were talking about water temperature. Being a new guy, right now we're probably in a very pivotal, where the water's starting to warm up a little bit. How does that play in a fly fisherman? What does water temperature do?
I would say water temperature is kind of like, it's not necessarily what changes the fish. Obviously if you go from, low 30s and up, they'll be a little bit more sluggish when it's colder and kind of warm up in the middle and everything. But with those water temperatures, I think you need to focus more on the bug life and what's hatching during those water temperature changes. A lot of those bugs that are sitting there in their egg stage, larva stages and stuff, they're waiting for that water temperature to change 4 or 5 degrees before they actually start their hatch. And that's why you see a lot of hatches that will, if you have a really cold morning, there'll be nothing hatching. The water warms up, and later in the afternoon, you get those nice hatches after that. So the water temperature kind of just gives you an idea of what you maybe should be throwing. I'm not a big match the hatch type of guy. I really think presentation is more important than actually what bug you're throwing. But it does help to be in the right ballpark. So you can kind of just get a guess of what you should throw with those water temperatures.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Good question, Chad, because we were talking about that the other day. I like that. All right, well, I think we're there, guys. So I think we'll wrap up with what we want to do for everybody, and that's, where do we send people to follow y'all? If you got a website, you got an Instagram, you got a whatever. So we'll go like this. We'll go Dave, Josh, Derek, and what we'll do is we'll put that up on the screen for you guys here, and you guys can get out there and follow these guys because there's no shortage of posts. I'll say that much, and that's a good thing. That's not a shot at you guys. It's awesome. It's actually like set the bar for us. Like if we can keep up with you guys, we're doing something right. So, Dave, where's everybody following you at?
Instagram's my main thing. I'm on it way too much, so you can find me on Instagram at davehansen.co.
All righty, Josh.
So you can find me on Instagram, just to plug myself a little bit too, being a fly fishing guy and everything. own Peg Leg Outdoors, and you can find me on Peg Leg Outdoors on Instagram, on Facebook, and so that's where you can find me. And if you're interested in a guide trip, just hit me up there, and we can go from there.
We find you at Laughing Grizzly as well, right? We'll put that up there.
Yep. So I work for fly fishing. I work with Laughing Grizzly Fly Shop, and then the North Fork Ranch over in Bailey. So
all right, we'll make sure those are up there as well for everybody. And finally, Derek.
Yeah, mine's just Instagram, Drowning Bugs.
And also, if you need a sweet tattoo, go to Durango.
Yes, Heathen Tattoo.
Right on. All right. I'm good there. Chad, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, it was a pleasure to meet you guys, and thank you so much for coming on. We really enjoyed the experience, the information, and to be able to tag along with some of you guys' adventures.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And I'm sure we'll see you again on here at some point or somewhere over there on the Instagram. But yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Fishing, guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
guys have a good one.
You too.